Be the Talk, episode 208, featuring Paula Quinsee. Welcome to Be the Talk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Paula Quinsee. Paula, are you ready to talk?
Yes, let's do this.
Paula Quinsee is a relationship expert and author of Embracing Conflict. She works with individuals and organizations to cultivate healthy relationships in both their personal and professional arenas by focusing on emotional skills and personal growth and development. Paula is also a consultant to the television show Married at First Sight. Now, how did I miss that detail, Paula? Welcome to the show, and your talk is called Why Relationships Are the Currency of the Future. Before I get distracted, let's just take us behind the talk, if you would.
Nathan, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's great to be with you. So, the work that I do, people keep talking about the fourth industrial revolution and how robotics and AI and big data is going to take over the world. And I was doing some research and about job skills of the future. And all the job skills and the types of jobs of the future is going to be around people. Complex problem solving, managing people, managing conflict. And funny enough, one of the top jobs that came up is an elderly wellness person. So taking care of the elderly, because with science and the way we are aging and the research and everything from a wellness perspective, we're going to be living longer and longer. And scientists are predicting that by the year 2080, we're going to be living to the age of between 150 and 200 years old. Mm-hmm. But robots won't look after us.
No. Say that again. By the year 2080, we're going to be living until we're almost 200 years old. I've never heard that before.
Crazy, right? But if you Google it, and if you Google the research, you'll see the research come up, which is just crazy. I can't even imagine living past 80, let alone 150.
Well, that sounds like an economic calamity to me. I mean, very few people, maybe if you're Bill Gates or a centimillionaire, you'll be able to pay for yourself. That I just never heard that before. When I don't hear something before, it's likely that Talk Universe hasn't heard it before either as well. Paula, my favorite part of your talk is, you start talking about all of these trends and the way that they're going. And then you kind of admit to being under the influence of the trend, because when you text your hubby, he's a lot like me. I've got my phone on silent all the time. It doesn't buzz. I like being in my head. I like thinking and focus, concentrating. The last thing I want is to have this thing go off. And you admit to kind of poking him and saying, hey, you're not wired enough, which is the very thing in your talk that you're trying to persuade us against. So I appreciate the humanity. Give us a little bit more detail on the talk, if you would.
Yeah. So it's really about human connection. And because we live in the world where we are constantly connected through devices and platforms and apps, and we're getting constant information coming at us, one of the new luxuries is going to be distraction-free time, where we spend quality time with the people that are important to us, being our partners, our children, and that quality of life versus constantly plugged in. And especially with the amazing sort of number of fake news out there as well. We really need to start looking at the kind of information that we are taking on board and the impact that it's having on us from a positive or a negative perspective.
Yeah, for sure. And it takes that phrase quality time to a whole new level. We always talk about quality time. As you're talking, you're a bit of a futurist here, already. And I could see how that could be a thing. That could be a trend. That could be really what it is for the people at the top of society. They know how to do that. The people with the greatest emotional intelligence know how to give focused, undivided attention to other people. And I could see how that could be not really a commodity, but something that more and more people are doing as well.
I think there are those people that are working on developing their emotional intelligence and their self-awareness and their people skills, but there are also a large number of people that are not developing it. And based on that, you need to then look at the quality of their relationships, both in their personal space as well as in the workplace. And with us moving into a global world, particularly from a workplace perspective and working with global people, like right now, you and I are on opposite ends of the world and we're connected through technology. Mm-hmm. So technology does play an important role, but I think also sometimes it can be intrusive. For example, if you have your work emails on your mobile device and it's constantly getting emails, they've done research where it's pressurizing you and you can actually feel the anxiety of not responding to those emails. So where do you draw the boundaries between work and personal life, and work-life balance?
Well, absolutely. And this is something, Talk Universe, you may or may not know that about me, but I used to teach online collaboration courses to faculty before Facebook came along and about 10 years ago. And this was one of the issues is we taught people how to use basically time separate or asynchronous time to be able to batch and get things done, and then carve out time, synchronous time to teach classes, and keep it very, very separate, and only check in, only check emails, only check messages once or twice a day. And that's the best way to keep your life free of all this clutter and distraction. And like you said, Paula, I feel for the managers of tomorrow who are going to be managing people who are more and more technically astute, but less and less high touch, less and less emotionally intelligent. So I think you bring up all kinds of amazing points in your talk, why relationships really are the currency of the future. Now, I've got to hijack this conversation at this point because I got to talk about this. I watched the American version of Married at First Sight, which is basically, it was a shock to, I think, a lot of us in the United States. There's a European version. There's a South African version. Paula, you are one of the relationship coaches for this television show. And in the United States, we're not used to arranged marriages, for sure. And I know that, that may be a little different around the world and whatnot, but we talked a little bit before this. I'd love to hear a little bit of what you've learned. And before you even tell me what you've learned from being a coach on that show, what type of a coach are you? Because there are 3 coaches, at least in the American version. Each one has kind of a little bit of a different angle. So what is your specialty on the show? What was that like for you?
So on the show, we had 4 experts, the relationship expert, which is the role that I played. We have a financial expert, we have a psychologist, and then we have a sexologist as well. And so my background is I'm a certified Imago relationship therapy educator and facilitator and an NLP coach and a PDA coach, personal development coach. And working with Imago relationship therapy, it's really about working with a relational space between 2 people. So from a relationship dynamics perspective, communication, conflict, childhood upbringing, we call it childhood wounding. We all get wounded in childhood. The types of relationships that we forge with each other and the typical relationship cycle that all relationships go through. And we don't go through it just once. We go through it numerous times with the same person while we're in the relationship. And so that my role was to work with couples through the journey and help them navigate the relational space between them and their relationship.
Paula, can you go back and unpack that a little bit? You said that we go through different relationship cycles with the same person in a relationship. So we're really a relationship, a marriage, or a long-term partnership, or whatever it is. It's really just going around the mountain time and time again. What does that really mean?
Yeah. So the first phase is what is commonly known as the honeymoon or the romantic phase, when we first meet someone and fall madly in love with them. Now that phase, depending on the dynamics between the 2 people, can take anything from 3 months up to 24 months. And that in the beginning stages can consist of things such as lust, attraction, and infatuation before you start moving into the love phase. Mm-hmm. And then we can be in that role where we kind of, they've done research where the chemical reactions going on in our bodies, which is serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and adrenaline, is almost the same high as someone that is an addict. Mm. Which is why in the honeymoon romantic phase, we love everything about our partner. They can do no wrong, and they are the best things since sliced bread. Until we start moving into the next phase, which is what we call the power struggle phase. And in the power struggle phase, it always starts with...
This is hitting close to home, Talk Universe, maybe for you as well as for me. You've been through some of these things, and we love it. We love it. This is part of living, right? Go on.
Now you're going to love this even more, because the power struggle phase always starts with the little things such as the toilet seat, the toothpaste tube, the wet towel on the bed or the floor, or the shoes that have been left in the passageway, or whatever it might be. It's these little things of frustration that start playing out in our relationship. And so I refer to that as the smoke screen. That's the smoke screen, those frustrations. The real thing underneath is emotional needs are not being met in some way, form, or shape. But because we're human beings, we like tangible things, see, touch, feel, we focus on the object of our frustration. So the wet towel on the bed or the floor. But it's actually been going on for a while underneath the surface. And potentially we are feeling unappreciated, not valued, not loved, not important, like we're invisible, depending on what's playing out between the couple.
Okay, so that basically means that there's some kind of unfulfilled emotional need, and it's at kind of, you didn't say it this way, but almost like a subconscious level. And what we do to manifest that is we look at some physical issue like the toilet seat or the tube of toothpaste, or do you roll it or do you squeeze it, and we attack the other person through that instead of saying, hey, I feel lonely, or you're not listening to me, you're on your phone all the time, or whatever it is. Is that pretty much what you're saying?
Quite correct. Yes, absolutely. And so we'll go for days, weeks, months where we're on the same page and we're connected and we're feeling good and connected to each other. And then we'll hit a speed bump. I call them speed bumps, where we'll become disconnected and we're not on the same page. And we then take on two types of conflict management styles. One is what we call a minimizer, which is like a tortoise, where you shut down and withdraw from the relationship or the person or the space because it doesn't feel safe. Mm-hmm. The other one is the maximizer, which is a bit like a lion or a tiger. And they will, when they're feeling threatened, they will come out and attack the enemy to protect themselves and keep themselves safe. So the attacker is, for example, they can display behavior such as shaming, blaming, fault-finding, criticizing, nitpicking, finger pointing, those kind of things. The minimizer will be the one that'll go do the silent treatment. And so both of them are the same things. They're defensive, protective mechanisms to keep us safe on an emotional level because we don't know what's going on. We don't understand it.
For sure. Well, thank you for that level of detail, Paula. We've been enjoying this very fun conversation with Paula Quinsee. Her talk is called Why Relationships Are the Currency of the Future. And we're going to be right back with Paula Quinsee for the Blitz Round in just a moment. People ask, how could I start a 7-day-a-week podcast? It's because of what I've learned from my mentors. Some of the best mentors in history aren't around anymore. They've left hours of one-on-one mentoring behind in their books. Each month at Classics on Tap, I record a new chapter from a classic business book to help you make a difference. Download your first chapter at classicsontap.com. And we're back with Paula Quinsee. It is time for the Blitz Round, where we pivot over to Talk Universe. And I'm going to ask you a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of your recent branded, in your case, TEDx Pretoria talk. Are you ready, Paula?
Right, let's do this.
All right. Hey, first off, were you selected to speak or did you apply?
I did apply, but someone had already seen me speak at another event, so I also got a recommendation.
All right. Are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
probably an improviser more than anything else.
How did that serve you?
I'd like to think on the day good most of the times. I do have a kind of a guideline structure that I use, but generally, I suppose you could say I fly by the seat of my pants.
All right. Well, you walk out on stage. Did you have nerves, or are you in the zone, or neither, or both?
Most of the time I'm in the zone, but to be honest, with the TEDx talk, there were some nerves.
What would you do differently next time?
I think next time I would probably have a bit more of a structured guideline than really leaving it a little bit too loose like I generally do. Okay.
So that you'd be a little bit more of a blender than I suppose. Yeah. So now what's a tip, a technique, or a tool that helped you, Paula?
I like to focus on 2 or 3 particular people in the audience and engage and connect with them. And when I see them responding positively back towards me just through body language or nodding of heads and that, and agreement, it just relaxes me, calms me down, and then I sort of get more in the zone.
All right. Hey, we've been enjoying the Blitz Round with Paula Quinsee. And before we go any farther in this interview, I want to let you know where you can go to watch her excellent talk. It's called Why Relationships Are the Currency of the Future. If you don't want to type that into YouTube, you can go to our show notes page at BeTheTalk.com. We'll have a clickable link right there, as well as you can go to PaulaQuinsee.com and find out more about the amazing work that she does. Paula, Paula, Quinsee, 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 PaulaQuinsee.com. And we'll be back with Paula Quinsee's final word of advice to us, Talk Universe. Everyone wants to change the world, but not everyone knows the first step. Before you can change the world with your talk, it has to be selected. So grab the templates, timelines, and tools that I use to get my talk selected at BeTheTalk.com. And we're back with Paula Quinsee. It is time for the final word of advice.
So I think, my final word of advice would be follow your dreams, step into that fear, as scary as it is, because if you don't try, you'll never know.
Paula Quinsee, thank you so much for carving out time to come on the talk today and share your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Be The Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.